This program is brought to you by TAB. Long may we play.
Hello and welcome to the final episode for Series 1 of Thoroughbreds Are Go. It's been great getting so much feedback to the stories we've run, trying to highlight how best to look after thoroughbreds away from racing, and I look forward to getting together lots more content to come back with Series 2 in early spring. The aim of the program has been to assist racing owners know the pros and cons of rehoming their thoroughbreds, and tonight I bring you my personal story of breeding, racing and rehoming my 3 horses and the trials and tribulations that can be involved, and I hope you can certainly learn from this story. Also, to the equestrian viewers who are taking on thoroughbreds, perhaps some pointers are in here too to assist you with your very special new horse. We also have a beautiful story from Stockwell Thoroughbreds in Victoria about the now 31-year-old former champion American 2-year-old and stallion Arazi, and how stud farms do look after their retired and ageing stallions. Also in Farm Friends, the rising 20-year-old warhorse, the famed front-running Desert War, and his wonderful existence at his home for life, Gorey Park at Mudgee. And another sweet tale of love for a thoroughbred stretching beyond stable life in Arrowfield Stud's Strappers Stories. That's all coming up in this edition of Thoroughbreds Are Go. Having grown up as a child obsessed with horses but never owning my own horse, it was with great excitement 12 years ago I bought a quarter share in a yearling filly at the Inglis Classic Sale. Named Rose Among Thorns, unfortunately she was too slow to race, but I did enjoy riding her off the track and then having 3 foals from her, all of whom made the racetrack, and I thought I'd rehome successfully. But this is a tale of drought, fire and serious injury. Now the 3 are all back with me. So I thought with the current restrictions on filming interviews, I'd tell that story, and hopefully those watching can gain some insights and advice to help them if they are following the same path.
Rum Cake and King William.
I never thought I would breed 3 thoroughbred foals. Having a quarter share of one thoroughbred was the most exciting thing in the world, and when my Rose Among Thorns was too slow to race, the next best thing was taking over her ownership, and for the little girl who'd only ever ridden friends' horses, to be able to ride my own horse off the track was a dream come true. But when she became sore in a shoulder and unrideable, what was plan B? Having been on the committee of Thoroughbred Breeders New South Wales for some years, in largely a media capacity, I thought it time to see what it's like to breed a thoroughbred to race, or as it turned out, to breed 3. An inexpensive sire, Prince Arthur by Danehill from a great female family, happened to be at Think Big Stud where Rose Among Thorns was adjusted, and the pedigree matchup was one of the best in the world. But when you're not breeding from high-end families commercially, you need every ounce of luck you can get. The day War of the Roses arrived, after spending the night with a ready-to-foal mare, I'd driven back from the Southern Highlands of New South Wales to Sydney to host a race day at Warwick Farm. I will never forget the feeling of elation when at midday the photo came through of my first new arrival, a new thoroughbred in the world, and the expectation and hope for what a life she might lead. The filly foal was perfect and grew into a strong yearling and 2-year-old, racing in partnership with some good friends with the fabulous name War of the Roses.
War of the Roses sticks on, trying to really knuckle down now.
After a string of minor injuries, War of the Roses retired in January 2018, having been so unlucky not to win a race, but still placing second twice in 13 starts. I learnt so much with this mare being in work, from filming trot-ups with the vets for her owners, trials, racing, spelling, pre-training, and even the truck arrival back at Randwick. Everything was a delight and so interesting to experience. But I was to learn just as much about the retirement process through War of the Roses as well. I sought advice about the best way to keep control of her destiny and was advised to lease her to a new home rather than sell or give her away, as thoroughbreds can be quickly moved on into dire circumstances when owners lose track of them away from racing. I also learned you can become a member of Equestrian New South Wales and thereby Equestrian Australia, providing a level of insurance for people riding your off-track thoroughbred. And I found you can register a horse so it can never be put through an abattoir, and you'll be contacted if it ends up in such a place. Eventually Wattower found a new home, but here's where the real lessons began. While she originally looked great under saddle, in drought conditions it became difficult for her new rider to feed her or care for her, and by the time I was able to see her late last year, she wasn't in great condition. I was able to see her once a week and spend up on good quality feed to improve that condition, and happily paid a young rider to help redevelop her top line. But in December, with fires in the area and my time to spend with her reduced to nil, she's now back at the farm from where she came. Now called Lime Country Thoroughbreds, I'm so relieved she's back at a professional thoroughbred operation from where I will attempt to rehome her once more.
Striker Rose back to the fence as well. Striker Rose and Cottage, they're coming to the line, close. 10 Striker Rose. Jeff Penzer for James Cummings, the filly by Striker, has just scored here.
So this is Striker Rose. This is the second born of the three, and she was a winner herself. She was the only foal of the three that I was there when she was born, which was obviously very exciting. And when she won a race at Newcastle, beating a lovely little Godolphin filly, and I was hosting there on Oaks Day at Randwick, and obviously not able to be at Newcastle, and the excitement of that, and some of the other owners were there, and it was just brilliant to see. I think Andrew Bensley had a little video of us in the weigh-in room there as she crossed the line first, but it's just mind-blowing to see, especially when you've bred them as well, and you follow them all the way through with the intention, of course, you know, as I eventually did, to try and find them a good home. But she wound up in a bit of misfortune off the track. She had a fabulous time with Vicky Roycroft, who took her through to jump off, and she was fantastic there. She trained her up as a show jumper, and Striker Rose was being ridden by Claudia Studdert. She won a class. This is back in August of last year, a show jumping class. And then unfortunately she came back, and in her paddock she wound up getting caught up in high tensile wiring. And we'll show you the pictures. They're pretty graphic, so we'll give you a bit of a warning before we show you some of the pictures of what she did to her legs. So it's been a process of recovery from August 2019 right through until now, and we're right in April 2020. So the legs are healing. One of the lessons that I've learnt with Striker Rose is the joy of seeing this horse compete, not only on the racetrack and win, but also seeing her compete as a show jumper as well. And for any owner seeing that, that is as much of a thrill as seeing them doing well on the racetrack or going to their first trials or going to their first race day as well. The other things I've learnt too though is that obviously sometimes, you know, fencing can be a problem at some of the equestrian places that aren't professional thoroughbred farms. So for anyone taking on thoroughbreds, just be a little bit aware aware of the way that they've been looked after in the past. They're used to being in boxes a lot of their life, or they've been in post and rail sort of yards, or the rubber or plastic fencing that can be really safe if something goes wrong. So just if you're taking any horse on, just be a little bit aware of the fencing that you're using for them, because obviously, you know, these injuries can happen. Horses are just, you know, prone to injury, any horse is, but just make sure that if you're taking on a thoroughbred that they're in the safest possible fencing that you can find for your property. Another learning curve for me was the breaking in process, as it's still known, is no longer about breaking a horse's spirit, but about working with them to build confidence and assist them to be a more rounded, active horse for someone to take on off the track. So this is King William. This was the third born of my little trio of homebred thoroughbreds who did race. He had 2 starts and he wasn't placed. In fact, I think he was pretty much last on both occasions. His little legs, as you can see, they just didn't grow. But he has the sweetest temperament. He's always been a gorgeous, gorgeous little colt. He was gelded pretty early, and he's so willing and obliging and just sweet, as you can see by his little relaxed mouth and his big bold eye. So William, well, unfortunately, he found himself up at a property where the owners with drought found it very hard to feed him. Obviously with any horse you do need to give them feed, but one of the things I learnt with William is it's probably best to not have them in paddocks where there are ponies or other stock horses or other sorts of horses that are going to eat their feed. So they will ingest a lot more than a thoroughbred is able to metabolise to maintain a healthy weight. Especially when they're not long off the track, they really can deflate pretty quickly. Then we had a situation where the fires were threatening where he was, so managed to get Hinnick from here at Hanover Lodge to bring his float up, and we were the last people to get through the roadblock on that day before they closed it, and the fire did come through the property there. The house was all right, but the paddocks where he had been were burnt out. So we were very lucky to get him back down here, just down the hill, and as you can see, he's fattened up incredibly well, and he's had Romney doing a great job riding him and looking after him. So he's back in perfect health, and he's a very, very happy boy. This is fantastic. As a breeder, to have the 2 of them, even though she might not like her brother very much at the moment because she's Queen Bee, but to have them both here together in the one place is brilliant, but he needs to be doing something. So hopefully we can find a new home for him before too long, because he's too young to be standing in a paddock. But it's just lovely to see her, Striker Rose, just so relaxed, enjoying life here at Hanover Lodge. I know not everyone will be in the position to have every thoroughbred they breed or race come back to them, but that is the vow I made as long as I'm able to do so. I do feel it's my responsibility to do this, and I hope this is an inspiration for other owners, that even if you aren't a gifted horse person, you can still take responsibility for your thoroughbreds for the rest of their lives. These pictures of my firstborn thoroughbred War of the Roses enjoying the beautiful lush pastures at Lime Country Thoroughbreds are for me what it's all about.